The rope creaked against the oak tree beam as I pushed open the barn door. Dad's boots swayed 3 feet above the hay-covered ground, his face already purple in the dim afternoon light filtering through dusty windows. "No, no, no, Dad, please no," I whispered, running toward his lifeless body. My hands shook as I tried to lift him, to somehow undo what had already been done, but his weight pulled the rope tighter around his neck. The suicide note lay crumpled on the ground beside the overturned wooden crate he'd used as his final step into oblivion. Mom's handwriting sprawled across expensive stationery. "Richard, I can't watch you destroy yourself anymore. Marcus and I are leaving together. Find the strength to let us go." Marcus. My uncle. Dad's own brother, who had been staying in our guest house for 6 months, supposedly helping us through the financial crisis that had consumed our family's $26 million fortune. My chest tightened, like someone was squeezing my heart with iron fists. The barn walls started spinning around me as I stumbled backward from Dad's body, my vision blurring at the edges. "What's happening to me?" I gasped, pressing both hands against my chest as sharp pain shot down my left arm. "I'm only 23. This can't be happening. Not now. Not like this." The pain exploded through my ribcage like lightning, dropping me to my knees on the barn floor. My lungs refused to pull air as the crushing weight settled across my chest. "Heart attack at 23? I wheezed, crawling toward the barn door as darkness crept into my peripheral vision. From stress? From grief? The darkness was winning now, creeping inward from all sides like spilled ink across white paper. My heart hammered irregularly against my ribs, skipping beats, stuttering, preparing to stop forever. If I had a chance to redo this, I promised the universe, my father's ghost, anyone who might be listening to a dying girl's desperate bargain, I would make so much fucking money that no woman would ever leave my family for financial security again. The barn floor felt cold against my cheek as I collapsed completely, my vision fading to black. The last thing I saw was Dad's boots, still swaying gently in the breeze from the open door. Then nothing. Then everything. Light exploded behind my eyelids like a camera flash in reverse. The crushing weight vanished from my chest, replaced by the familiar comfort of my childhood bedroom's memory foam mattress. Sunlight streamed through windows that had been boarded up for months in the timeline I'd just left behind. "What the hell?" I sat up so fast my head spun, my hands immediately checking my chest for pain that no longer existed. My heart beat steady and strong. My phone sat on the nightstand, displaying a date that made my breath catch. February 14th, 2020. 4 years before Dad's suicide. But more importantly, 1 month before COVID would crash global markets and create the greatest wealth transfer opportunity in modern history. "I'm 19 again," I whispered, staring at my reflection in the bedroom mirror. But the memories remained crystal clear. Every detail of the COVID crash, every stock that would plummet, every market move that would destroy unprepared investors. Numbers started flowing through my head like armor against the fear. The S&P 500 would drop from 3,380 to 2,200. Boeing would crash from $340 to $89. Carnival cruise from $51 to $8. Calculating profits helped keep me calm while my world had collapsed before. Now those same calculations would rebuild everything. I grabbed my laptop with trembling fingers. My online banking account showed $15,000 in savings. Not much, but enough to execute the most profitable trade in market history. I opened my options trading platform and bought every SPY put option I could afford, betting $14,000 that the market would collapse by 40% before April. Then I used the remaining $1,000 to buy puts on cruise lines, airlines, and hotels that would be devastated by lockdown orders. The transactions completed with simple confirmations that represented the first step toward making enough money to save my father's life. "Sarah, breakfast," Mom called from downstairs, her voice carrying cheerful energy. I remembered from before our family's financial problems had consumed her happiness. I headed downstairs where Dad was reading the morning paper while Uncle Marcus flipped pancakes at the stove. But something felt off. Dad was sitting perfectly straight in his chair. He always slouched when reading, and he was drinking from Mom's favorite blue mug instead of his usual plain white one. Morning, sweetheart, Dad said, looking up with a smile that seemed to arrive half a second too late. Morning, kiddo, I corrected automatically. Dad always called me kiddo, never sweetheart. His smile flickered. Right, kiddo, sleep well? Like a baby, I replied, studying his face. Dad, I've been thinking about investment opportunities. Uncle Marcus looked up from the pancakes with sudden interest, and I caught a whiff of something antiseptic sharp beneath his cologne. What kind of investments, Sarah? Market hedging strategies. I have a feeling we're heading into economic volatility. Dad chuckled, but the sound felt rehearsed. Sarah, the market's at all-time highs. What makes you think volatility is coming? Uncle Marcus set down his spatula with the precision of someone handling medical instruments. Sarah, market timing is incredibly dangerous. You could lose everything in days. Or make everything in days if I'm right about the volatility. Uncle Marcus's face went pale and his voice carried an edge I'd never heard before. Options trading is pure speculation. The mortality rate for day traders exceeds 90%. Mortality rate, strange way to phrase investment losses. What about put options, insurance against market declines? Absolutely not, Uncle Marcus said quickly. The safest strategy is diversified long-term holdings in stable blue-chip stocks. The same advice that had kept our family exposed to maximum losses when the pandemic hit. But now I could see something in Uncle Marcus's eyes that I'd missed before. Panic at the idea of me making money independently. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched my positions climb steadily as market anxiety grew. Reports of lockdowns in China, travel restrictions, supply chain disruptions. Every headline confirmed what I knew was coming, and every profit notification felt like building a wall between my family and the destruction I'd witnessed. By March 1st, my $15,000 investment had grown to $47,000. By March 15th, as global lockdowns began and markets collapsed in panic, my portfolio hit $180,000. But I was also noticing things about Dad that made my skin crawl. He'd started using phrases Mom used, like absolutely lovely, instead of his usual sounds good. His laugh came a beat too late after jokes, and yesterday I'd caught him staring at his own reflection in the hallway mirror with the confused expression of someone who didn't recognize what they saw. Dad, I said during dinner, showing him my investment account on my phone. I think it's time we had a serious conversation about our family's financial strategy. Dad stared at the numbers, his eyes widening with each zero he counted. But his surprise felt calculated, like he was performing amazement rather than experiencing it. Sarah, this is incredible. How did you predict this with such precision? Pattern recognition, I said, running calculations in my head to stay focused. $180,000 could become $2 million with the right recovery plays. Numbers were safety. Numbers made sense when nothing else did. But Dad, this is just the beginning. I know what's coming next. Uncle Marcus leaned forward with sharp attention, his mask of supportive concern slipping to reveal something predatory underneath. What's coming next? Recovery opportunities, technology companies, e-commerce platforms, cryptocurrency. Uncle Marcus's coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. Cryptocurrency is a bubble, Sarah. The cellular degeneration from speculative trading is well documented. Cellular degeneration? Who talks like that? It was random neural firing patterns producing false pattern recognition, he said, then caught himself. I mean, it was luck. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. But Dad was already running numbers, and I noticed his mental math was too fast, too precise, like a computer calculating rather than a person thinking. Sarah, if you can really generate returns like this consistently, I can do better, but I need significant capital to maximize the profit potential. How significant? $2 million, everything we can access. Uncle Marcus stood up so abruptly his chair toppled backward. Richard, absolutely not. Sarah got lucky with one trade and now she thinks she's Warren Buffett. One trade that generated 1,200% returns while professional funds lost billions, I replied, watching his face carefully. Then let me prove it's not luck, I said, opening my laptop. Bitcoin is currently trading at $5,000 per coin. I'm going to invest half my profits in Bitcoin and the other half in Tesla stock. Uncle Marcus's face went white. Sarah, those are the most volatile investments possible. The cardiac stress alone could trigger arrhythmic events. Cardiac stress, arrhythmic events. Uncle Marcus was talking like a doctor, not a business consultant. Why does it upset you so much when I want to make money, Uncle Marcus? The question hung in the air like poison gas. Uncle Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it, realizing he'd revealed too much desperation. That evening, I pretended to go to bed early, but instead watched from my bedroom window as Uncle Marcus left the house at 11 p.m., carrying what looked like a medical bag. I'd been tracking his late-night departures for a week now, always the same time, always the same duration, always returning with that antiseptic smell stronger than before. I followed him at a distance, my car lights off, using the GPS tracker I'd secretly placed on his vehicle with some of my trading profits. The numbers helped me stay calm. $180,000 in current profits, $2.1 million potential if my Bitcoin and Tesla plays worked, enough money to hire private investigators if needed. Uncle Marcus drove to an abandoned warehouse complex on the industrial side of town. I watched from a block away as he entered through a side door, the medical bag swinging in his hand. I waited 15 minutes, then approached the building. Through a dirty window, I could see into what appeared to be a makeshift laboratory. Medical equipment, monitoring devices, IV stands, and walls covered with photographs of missing persons from our area. 17 young people who had disappeared over the past 2 years. But what made my blood freeze was the man sitting in a medical chair with electrodes attached to his head. A man who looked exactly like my father, but wearing clothes I'd never seen and with an expression of haunted desperation in his eyes. He looked up and made direct eye contact with me through the window. "Sarah," he mouthed silently, his voice barely visible but unmistakably Dad's real voice, not the rehearsed performance I'd been living with. "Help me." I pulled out my phone and started recording, my hands shaking as I documented Uncle Marcus moving between monitoring stations, adjusting equipment, taking notes on what appeared to be brain activity readings. This was Dad, the real Dad, which meant the man I'd been living with, the man who supported my investment strategy, the man who drank from Mom's mug and called me sweetheart. My phone buzzed with a text message. "Sarah, where are you? Dad is worried, Uncle Marcus." But Uncle Marcus was inside the building, which meant someone else was sending messages from his phone. I ran back to my car and drove home as fast as I could, numbers streaming through my head like a protective mantra. $180,000 current value, 20% stop-loss triggers, 2.5x leverage on Bitcoin positions, anything to keep my mind focused on data instead of the impossibility of what I'd witnessed. When I burst through our front door, I found the thing I'd been calling Dad sitting in the living room, reading a book with perfect posture. "Sarah, sweetheart, Marcus said you went out for a drive. Is everything all right?" There it was again, sweetheart instead of kiddo. I stared at his face, searching for any sign of the haunted expression I'd seen in the laboratory. But his eyes showed nothing but programmed concern. "Dad," I said carefully, "do you remember anything about the past 4 months? Anything that felt different or artificial?"